Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us in the first of our customer webinar series featuring Project Builder and Library, now part of the Transparency Catalog. And we're going to be talking about standardizing high performance material selection in your organization. We're super excited to have Maria, Scott, and Erica with us today. In full disclosure, Scott's having a little bit of trouble logging in, so he may be able to join us and maybe not. So we're going to start out, for those of you unfamiliar with Sustainable Minds, a little bit of an introduction. We're going to talk about the challenges of standardizing high performance material selection. For those of you who have not used the Transparency Catalog before, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how it works, and then I'm going to turn things over to the folks from Ewing Cole and then Erica from Paladin to tell their case studies about how they're using Project Builder and Library to standardize material selection. And if we have time, I'll do a quick demo. Otherwise, we'll go to Q&A and wrap things up. This webinar is getting recorded, and after you can request the deck. On your way out, we're going to ask you to answer a few short questions and give us some feedback on the webinar. We hope you'll do that. And if you have questions at any point during the webinar, put your questions into the questions panel, and we'll either answer them along the way in the background, or we'll get them answered by the right person or people after the webinar. So sit back and enjoy. So for those of you new to Sustainable Minds, we are the only end-to-end product transparency solutions provider for the high performance building materials, design, and construction industry today. We are a program operator. We develop product category rules. We deliver EPDs. We deliver LCA and material ingredient assessment services. We deliver transparency training and education. And we've built a lot of digital tools to get products into projects, because as a mission-based company, our goal is to transform the built environment. And that's what you're going to see more of today. Our approach has always been to integrate product transparency into product marketing, trying to make this technical information understandable and usable for people to be able to make better decisions. This just shows you kind of about the end-to-end of our front end, our technical program for product category rules. We have a unique kind of EPD. Ours is called a transparency report. It was the first digital EPD published in 2014 that integrates product transparency with product marketing. And then all of the content from any building product manufacturer, anywhere in the world making products for the North American market, who's invested in EPDs or material disclosures, can be found in the Transparency Catalog. So for those of you who are on the call who are manufacturers, manufacturers and industry associations work with us on their entire transparency journey, or just the parts that they need. So with industry associations, frequently we're only creating PCRs. In the case of natural stone, for example, we created PCRs. We did an industry-wide EPD, an industry-wide LCA, and industry-wide EPDs. And many manufacturers we work with only to get their content and products published in their activated listing in the Transparency Catalog. And now with the addition of Project Builder and Library integrated into the Transparency Catalog, our commitment to manufacturers is that not only will we support your product transparency journey, we are going to get your products literally into projects and libraries, and that's what you're going to hear about today. A little bit about the Transparency Catalog. It was launched in 2016 with only 350 brands, because that's all there were in the world at that time who had published EPDs or material disclosures. Today we have over 2,300 building product manufacturers, and all of the content is organized by master format. And the Transparency Catalog is free to use. Anybody can do it, use it. at any time. We've got manufacturers and products across 28 master format divisions, over 1,000 sections. And again, we include every single EPD from North American program operators, organized by product specific, industry average, and optimized, and all the material ingredient disclosure, the leading programs, HPD, Declare, Living Challenge, and Cradle to Cradle. While we are not the only ones who have access to some of these APIs, again, our focus is on making the content, the data from these APIs understandable to make it easy to use and make better decisions, not just easy to find. So a couple screenshots from how we're making that possible. Through our partnership with the EC3 tool, we have a custom component of their API. We were their first data partner in 2019, so we created this together so that we can bring in the comparative result of the EPDs in each category in EC3 so that you don't need to go to EC3 to compare EPDs in a category. We make that data visible to you associated with each EPD. And now, for example, if you're searching for products and you're working on a project where you have low carbon requirements, you can apply this filter and say, I only want to see products with EPDs that are in the 20th or 40th or the lowest percentiles, whatever your threshold is going to be. And that's all you'll see. You can use these filters in any order. So you could apply that carbon threshold filter first and then go start looking at the different master format sections and the brands. We do the same thing with material disclosures. So you can not only filter by the specific types of material disclosures, you can filter by the results of those disclosures. And we do something unique with the HPD data. We actually show which HPDs don't contain chemicals on their additional restricted chemical lists, specifically Perkins and Will precautionary list, the ILFI red list, the C2C restricted chemicals list. So if you can't find a Declare label or a C2C certificate, specifically, whether it's red list or red list approved, you can look and see if there's an HPD that has been developed by the manufacturer that is free of any of those ingredients as well. For those of you manufacturers mostly want to know this, who uses the transparency catalog? We're really psyched to be able to show this results of this report from Engineering News Record. Their 2024 top green report shows that the top 5 green design firms by sector and the top 5 green contractors by sector all use the transparency catalog. And 75% of the top 50 in each list use the transparency catalog. And this year, this is a new stat, that 90% of the top 25 contractors all use the transparency catalog. So what that tells us is that transparency is mainstream. These are not all organizations who are doing sustainable design. People are coming here for the EPDs, for the material disclosures, and to find building product manufacturers who are making credibly higher performing materials. So we like to ask the question, are you or your organization trying to standardize high performance material selection? And it turns out that all types of organizations are saying yes. So all types across the design build process, large and small. And you know, it's a challenging problem. So we try to manage expectations by explaining, you know, it's not a one size fits all tool kind of problem. It's a new field of software. There are a few other solutions available that you may have already been looking at or evaluating. They're all different. It's a unique convergence of requirements. It's not just a knowledge problem or a data problem or a specification or sourcing or measurement or reporting problem.
My name is Maria Pappies. I'm the Director of Sustainable Design with Ewing Cole. We are an architecture and engineering firm of over 460 folks. Architects are about half of us. We have engineering, as I mentioned, interior design, planning, and then also groups that focus on research and sustainability. And we have offices across the country. We started in Philadelphia. We've expanded into the Mid-Atlantic and Southern California and are now actually in Fort Worth as well. We are in, let's see if we can get that to, there we go, perfect. Our work covers several different markets. That's been part of our success in that 60+ years of a lifetime as a firm, of course. And our most predominant markets really do fluctuate over time. Right now, science and technology and healthcare are probably our largest. We also work in education, both K-12 and higher ed, as well as cultural and government work, sports at both the professional and university level, and then workplace, which often ends up being a piece of one of those other markets. Oh, sorry about that, got ahead of myself. So sustainability at Ewing Cole is driven by our Sustainability Action Plan. This is a relatively new document together as one big compilation that came together in 2023 and is based on our successes and motivations, our mission over time, kind of culminating in a document that really tries to guide us forward. And it really is rooted in our mission, but towards a pretty straightforward outcome, right? That our goal is to support our health as humans, as individuals, our health of communities, and that of the environment, really creating spaces and places that support both people and planet. This action plan is tied to, or kind of rooted in, our 4 sustainability commitments, one of which is the AIA Materials Pledge. So when we developed our SAP, the Materials Pledge did not have reporting yet. That now is live, as Terry mentioned. So our timeline and targets for this particular commitment, what you're seeing here on the screen, are based on the overall vision of the Materials Pledge itself, which is tied to those 5 key impact categories of human health, climate health, ecosystem health, social health and equity, all within a circular economy. And so our goal was to take that truly aspirational definition of what it means to be responsible when we select materials and set ourselves some goals over time. If we zoom in on that a little bit closer, you can see that we have 3 different periods of time on that timeline for the Materials Pledge itself. And this first piece is what we knew we needed to really be successful in either of the future phases. And that's really a time period focused on development of standards, process, and education internally. That foundation that could provide a consistent platform for improvement as we shift into holistic improvements in the next space, excelling across some of those health categories, and then really getting there, if you will, as the market matures, as we continue to evolve our definitions of success. And so that foundation is tied to really tactical things in our industry, right? We needed consistency and updates in our specifications, in our front end, and across our technical sections. We're starting there with architecture and interiors and moving into our engineering disciplines as well. We knew we needed updates to education, right? This language of the Materials Pledge impact categories is a new way to think about sustainable material selection. So we wanted to roll some of that content out internally. And last but not certainly least, we knew we needed a consistent way to track our material selection. And that's really where SMTC's platform came in for us. So looking at that transition and trying to break down what our drivers were, what maybe some of our hurdles or pain points were in material selection tracking. The first was we knew we did not have time to maintain our own digital library. Our design tech team, our IT team, has built internal databases for us in the past, but materials really is a whole other can of worms, right? The level of data there, the level and speed at which that data changes. We knew even if we could build it to begin with, we couldn't maintain it by any stretch. Second driver was really that we wanted something that would be accessible to both experts and newcomers alike. Again, based on all of that data in this space, can really get down the rabbit hole quickly and into language that's just less familiar to most of our peers. third driver was pretty basic, right? But we wanted to be able to make choices in a logical, methodical manner. And this goes back to the fact that, of course, our work is project-based. Those projects are in particular markets. Some of those markets are in particular offices. So we really wanted to create that consistency, that method across all of those pieces, all of those variables. We also wanted to stop reinventing the wheel. We know that we've come to some great solutions on projects, and if that language those ideas aren't translated forward, future project teams might, again, kind of spin wheels and recreate the same solution over again if we're not sharing consistently. And last, and very tied to that reinventing of the wheel, we wanted really a fun way to share and collaborate across offices for folks to be able to drop in a quick note about a great product or about a particular market alignment. So before we switch into our actual kind of deep dive into how we're using Project Builder, I wanted to make one note on who helped work this out for us. Within Ewing Cole, sustainability is organized in a couple of ways. The first is through Thrive at EC, which is primarily a volunteer group broken into the 4 focus groups that you see here. And we also have a dedicated sustainability department. So for this particular effort, we pulled folks from sustainability as a department, volunteers from our focus group on materials, and then our co-chairs for the Materials Pledge itself. And with that, I might be turning it over to Scott. How are we looking, Terry? Is he able to come off mute?
Lainey.
Scott should be unmuted now.
Perfect.
Yep. If you can all hear me, thanks for bearing.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for bearing with me here. No camera, so you'll have to look at the beautiful faces on screen. As Maria touched on, there's just a lot flying around in the mental space of creating sustainable projects, curating sustainable materials. And as a firm, especially at our size, there's just a lot of efforts that can distract you from getting to a finish line. Sustainability is a bit of an all-encompassing term. So how exactly is Sustainable Minds helping Ewing Cole refine our workflows? What parts of sustainable design are we talking about? And really, we're focusing on the materials, the certifications, and the various attributes. The Project Builder tool and Transparency Catalog help facilitate the gathering and curation of our materials and finishes that are used repeatedly on projects. They maintain their current environmental data and certifications for us and provide a nice, simple UI interface. I'm sure, as you're all aware, not every tool is useful out there or simple or effective, and I think that this tool captures all 3 of those. There we go. Environmental certifications can kind of get overwhelming, especially if you're new into the field, right? A lot of times we'll have interns or co-ops doing a lot of the legwork of gathering information, but they can easily get burdened by the jargon, the abbreviations, the not sure what bucket things fall into. So as part of our effort as a group, at Ewing Cole, we focus also on education, making sure that these are tools that are usable and they're understandable. And what I really enjoy about the Transparency Catalog, Project Builder, and Library is they have everything out in front, out for you to use. You can click on it, you can hover on it, you can get a little pop-up that tells you a little bit of information, demystifying it perhaps. They go out and they contact manufacturers for you if you want, et cetera, et cetera. So with our 400 plus employee office, you can imagine that it's quite difficult to maintain these libraries. And if you had to maintain one all internally on your own, that database management can take up a lot of internal resources. So relying on a company like Sustainable Minds really helps take a lot of the burden off of us of doing database maintenance and allows us to be designers and specifiers. The layout or breakdown of how this is organized on the catalog is by master spec divisions, right? We've got all the different divisions that you would normally specify on a project, so things translate one-to-one from the organization database side all the way through construction documents. And acknowledging the fact that most type of things such as MEP devices don't really typically have coverage in these type of databases. We're looking at a full slate of coverage from Sustainable Minds here. So how does this work with our UN Call Sustainability? We filter through the sustainability team where we curate a lot of our products and selections, and it then disperses into our various practice fields from cultural to workplace to sports and entertainment. And then those best practices or templates then share down into our design and engineer teams. So on this slide, what I'm trying to illustrate is the fact that practice and disciplinary divisions look clean on paper, but in the real world, the lines are very blurred. A lot of the time, especially with engineers or with project architects or project managers, they can kind of flip between different practices or types of projects of different scales. And there might even be projects that cross over in terms of programmatic examples. You might have a sports facility that has a rehab facility that you might spec typical healthcare type of finishes and materials. You might have a museum in a sports facility. I know I'm using a lot of sports here, but those are massive complexes where you can get a lot of different programmatic elements. Likewise, a manufacturing plant needs an office. It might have a rec center for its employees. It might have an exhibit or an educational component for visitors outside. So you can see why having multiple use cases of project templates through this project builder tool might allow teams to collaborate more across practice. So getting a little bit more into the weeds on the catalog allows us at UN Cole to define our favorite materials and finishes from studs, insulation, and sheathing to ACT, flooring, and wall treatments. The evolving tool has a lot of moments that save time for designers, and some of our favorites include the custom libraries, templates, and tags. Our goal is to define a UN Cole library and template for each practice's prototypical projects. So you might have a different one for a football stadium as you do a soccer stadium, and you might have a different template for a manufacturing facility as you would a research lab. And then the templates are envisioned as starting points, not the be-all, end-all for how we do every project, but it really gets the project off the page from the get-go and saves us a lot of time, effort, and energy of re-educating everyone that's new on this kind of project, perhaps. And the project builder tool really helped facilitate one of our pledges that we're a member of as UN Cole. We're part of the AIA 2030 commitment, the AIA Materials Pledge, the SE 2050 commitment, and the MEP 2040 commitment. Specifically with the Materials Pledge, this tool really helped us sort of extract specific high concept information about the materials on these projects and try to find stuff that was popularly spec'd across multiple projects in terms of types of materials. These highlighted materials, the cast in place concrete, insulation, gypsum board, ACT, resilient flooring, carpeting, paintings and coatings and furniture, were types of products that we thought were pretty uniform across multiple project types between practices, disciplines, and scales of projects. You typically find these materials in all of them. So we wanted to focus our efforts on getting all of these categories of products on each of the projects that we wanted to submit to the Materials Pledge, collated and analyzed through the project builder tool as a way to extract and submit for a consistent project-to-project view in the Materials Pledge. And what we really like about the transparency catalog is that while despite only formally tracking the 2 impact categories, it has a lot of certifications that speak to the other impact categories. So you shouldn't think of it just as a 2 impact category tool. It helps inform your use and the way that you think and approach about the other impact categories for the Common Materials Framework. Specifically, it's just tracking the human health and climate health now, but with a cradle-to-cradle certification, for example, you might be able to dip into a few of the other buckets. And while it's not formally tracking it, they still help you find those other sustainable documents and help point you to where those sort of certifications might be in a niche case. So if you're looking at a product that you haven't used before, you can search through the available types of certifications and documents that hit those buckets, as you can see on the pop-up on the right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. And I'll just finish up with one more slide here. Sorry about that, Erica. Jumping ahead with my mouse. Real quick as we transition, building on what Scott mentioned there, reporting for the Materials Pledge is very new. For those firms, design firms who are doing so, it's been like 1 full year of reporting and then a mini year. But what we're doing with the project builder at the moment is exporting projects that we've entered materials into, created those projects based on the product types chart that Scott showed, exporting, it's just a plain Excel, but then we reformat it in the like very small detail, but image you see on the top left there, and align those certifications in climate health and in human health. And then we also have a category for circularity and social equity based on those certifications of cradle to cradle and such. With that data organized out of Project Builder, it makes it much easier for us to translate it into the current reporting format for the Materials Pledge, which is another spreadsheet. But again, having it coordinated, having it organized makes that translation into how we report that much simpler at this point. All right, and I'll turn it over to Erica. Thank you.
Well, thank you, you and Cole representatives, for being so stoic, and Scott for jumping in the way you did, and excellent stories. And there's a whole, range of different kinds of people on the webinar, and I love the contrast between the work that you and Cole is doing and the hands-on work that Erica is doing, illustrating such different use cases. So buckle up. Erica is going to blow your mind.
Great, thank you, Terry. Appreciate being invited to participate with the team from you and Cole. Always love collaborating with you, Terry, and them. I am Erica Weeks. I am the Director of Green Building Certifications with Paladin. We are a small woman-owned engineering firm based in Lexington, Kentucky, but I am in Nashville, Tennessee, and we have some other folks in other great cities. I am an architect by my education, background, and training. I just happened to get into this sustainability stuff about 15 to 20 years ago and just couldn't get enough. As you can see by my love of learning and my love of also helping to support project teams to figure out the problems, to have ways to talk about products, data, anything that we really need to dig in and create a different way to think about that puzzle on. Paladin, like I said, we've been in engineering since 1986, been doing commissioning since 2002 and sustainability since 2004. And what drives our business in thinking through how we help all the customers that we are fortunate to work with is how do we impact emissions, and how do we talk through everything from design into the commissioning stage, back to operations, and then loop that information back to great projects that we would continue to work on over the life of those buildings. We are trying in our sustainability studio to have some great impact to help architects, engineers, other contractors, folks who don't necessarily have a grip on some of this materials related criteria. As the team said, there's a lot of disclosures efforts. When do you use what? How do you track it? What do you look for? So our role very much in the sustainability consulting is particularly looking at rating systems, action plans. We sometimes work on the design time with the design teams. We're often on only the construction side working with the contractor. And then when we're fortunate, we get to collaborate and go both design through construction phase. That's really helped us determine what our best use cases for Project Builder and Library have been. Looking at products that we see day to day, we are looking at them from a regional lens. We are looking from different criteria based on what rating system criteria would be. And then also in our engineering and commissioning role, because we are gearing up, as many are, for MEP 2040 and tracking with that group of folks, what will reporting look like? We're leveraging our use of Transparency Catalog, Project Builder, and Library to help gear us up for what we think will be a great way to help advocate to the industry of MEP manufacturers as a greater group, right? Versus me just sending a one-off email to one representative at a time. I'm going to walk you through a couple of cases where I have been working on materials and specs, like I said, from a long time through my history in architecture, as well as helping support project teams figure out everything that they need to comply with for rating systems or other tracking mechanisms. And back now about 10 years ago, there was this article that really blew my mind that explained specs from architects are typically repeated, and people know what they're going to use because they're trust in their manufacturer or what that existing relationship is. And I was like, what if we're able to green those specs or have the ability to inform what those materials are in those particular sections that get used on every project, right? You're always going to have certain items, and what are those common materials and how do we make the greatest impact with those? So we've all seen, and there are a lot out there, what I call a kitchen sink spec effort, meaning the architect or the spec writer potentially is using some kind of master format that allows them to pick every manufacturer on the planet, pick every sustainability attribute on the planet, and then go forth issuing that spec in hopes that the general contractor or the sub will have to figure out what actual materials or what actual product meets that spec, and how do we not do that, right? Like that's the key. How do we make it easier for the architect to understand what products, what materials, what manufacturers they get in their local area or the area of their project, and then what do they really contribute? Are they really a product that has an EPD or don't have an EPD, and how do we make that happen or request or advocate for that if we need to? This can't be just something that the contractors do on their own when you get this huge list of products that could be used as equal if that background research hasn't been accomplished. So there is this better way with Transparency Catalog. Terry will tell you, I was so excited when Transparency Catalog launched and now the Project Builder and Library, because it is a one-stop shop for us to be able to quickly identify manufacturers and to quickly identify criteria at the click of a couple of buttons. So when I see a new spec that I've not seen a manufacturer before, the first place I go is to Transparency Catalog to see if the manufacturer's in there, what do they offer from a product standpoint, and then be able to help my reviews of specifications go a bit quicker because I can at least identify these things at the touch of a few buttons and using a couple different search features. When we look at Project Builder and the library, this is also the great way where when I am reviewing specs, to be able to add products to a particular project, which is really helpful. When we start a project and are starting to look at basis of design in a spec book from an architect, from an interior designer, from others, we simply just have to click a button to say that the product is included and then add that product. We make a project. Sometimes we make a test project first. Sometimes we do make a project that will add some different information to, but that's a way for us to also just click a button and keep track of what products are being specified and then flag for ourselves where we can go back and do some more research if we have to. When you look in Project Builder, you also have a suite of tools which I think are so flexible for people to also make the project talk to what it needs from a status of where are we at in design? Are we pre-design? Are we construction documents? Are we into CA? And be able to add so much information within Project Builder itself that can help others on the team understand why a material was selected or why it needs to be that material, or if we've had an experience with that material. There are many features, and it allows us to very quickly, in a few clicks again, see what products have already been looked at from a review standpoint, if we've had any review comments, and then what are we moving forward into when we do submittal reviews. So the other big use case that we have, because again, we're looking at specification side, the design side, and then as well, we're looking at that construction side. So when we're looking at specification reviews, again, someone has gone into their interior paint spec, turned on every type of paint possible on the face of the earth that you could have in a project building, and then potentially even 3 manufacturers for each of those different finish types, if you will. So we needed to really save some time. We couldn't be looking up every single or equal paint for every product category within an interior paint spec. So we've made product collection for this example for Sherwin-Williams paints, because we tend to see those very frequently. On the design side, we use them for that spec book review. We're looking to see if Sherwin-Williams has transparency data. This is also where, when Terry mentioned, you can add in your own data if there are products that aren't in transparency catalog, or if we want to enhance and put additional data, this is the place once we've added the product we can. Then when we are on the construction side and we're getting that submittal for review, here comes that Sherwin-Williams product approval deck of 100 pages. We reopen transparency catalog and apply that knowledge that we've gained. There's also a very quick and easy way to move products from our collection to a particular projects if we hadn't done that yet. So that saves us a ton of time also, because we know the documentation is up to date, we have it already collected, and we're just sharing it basically across different projects that are using that similar paint. Super time saver. The other way we're using it is we tend to have customers that we do repeat business for that have design standards. This, again, helps us save a lot of time and effort when we can look very quickly at what did we use on the last 3, 4, 5 projects, even if they had different architects, if they had different contractors. And that really also helps the owner of the project understand. We can give them some of that documentation also, so that they have it for record when they are looking at a new architect or a new designer, to help bring them up to speed a little bit quicker than to hand them just a written design standard. This keeps our documentation up to date. We know when new projects come online, we'll be able to clip out and say, here's what we used. And sharing it with team members is also so time saving, because we can also go back to those buildings and look to see, is that finish really holding up? Is that really something that they want to continue with? The other way, when we have customers who have a large project happening, but it may be phased and they may need to buy a certain suite of materials all at once, warehouse them, and then leave them for other phases that might happen a year or 2 from now, is really great, because we know we have that data collected and it's already ready to go for that certification that that project is under. Now, as-built, this was something when I was talking to Terry, was a good nugget of information, meaning I often think that teams are really good at updating their drawings. A wall moves, a door shifts. You have that as-built requirement to provide back to your owner what really got built. But I don't see that as much in specs. And when you see people crossing out, as they review something, and they may have those 6 or 7 different door manufacturers, I don't see them taking that red pen and crossing out, the 3 or 4 that, didn't even comply, or what those types of, things that you could help build your next spec would help you with. So there's a great way for when you build your project out, there's a little button under each material that you can click and say installed, and then also add, again, some cost information. Was this the basis of design? You can add notes for who your sub or installer were. We keep track of some regional criteria, because we do need that for certain rating systems. And it just helps us keep everything all in one place that we can then export. So this is a big deal for us, because when we do have the ability to have all this information in one place, understand what a new project comes in, what their goals are, how we can quickly evaluate the suite of materials that we need to, and then have that information from the construction administration side. It saves us so much time to implement this loop of understanding that we really think everyone should be tracking those materials to be able to re-inform their future specs. It'll cut to the chase a lot faster. It'll keep the contractors from also scratching their heads, and it'll give you a variety of great information for your other reporting needs. The next wave that we see, because we are an engineering and commissioning firm also, is that MEP 2040, where there is a requirement for us on our design work and our commissioning work to request environmental product declarations. And as mentioned before, there's not as many with EPDs and with other transparency out there on the market as there are finishes. But what Transparency Catalog has is really covered those MEP sections that we have to look at, and starts to build and inform us where some of those major manufacturers are starting to provide EPDs. What the great thing about Transparency Catalog is the contact us buttons also, because as we're looking at mass market transformation, me sending an email to a manufacturer, a one-off, maybe not to the right person, maybe to the wrong directory, whoever, is an advocacy that I need to do, but I don't even know if sometimes it is being heard or thought of. If we collectively all start using this as a tool, and the Sustainable Mines teams gets this critical mass of people asking these manufacturers, that's going to get us to get those EPDs and that criteria that we need faster. So a little call to action there on the MEP side. But I can't stress enough that how much we enjoy using Transparency Catalog as a time-saving tool for our research and tracking. Your specification review, getting folks on board with understanding what they need to look at in their submittal reviews, it moves the needle on your next lead project for sure, because you're still going to be looking for all the great criteria that Terry's built out all the filters for, and getting you there faster by keeping track of these products that you're using and specifying. If you look at your as-built materials, there's a lot you can learn. I talk about joint sealants a lot, and in my local area, you can see a spec for joint sealants from 7 or 8 manufacturers, but I know we're only going to get 2 because those are the 2 subcontractors that rep for those 2 brands. And then gearing up for that 2040 commitment, you know, that industry ask, that's a huge, huge deal that I think to move the market, you know, all of us need to come together and be able to ask that as a big group. So lots of great stuff. I think I'm going to send it back to you, Terry.
Well, thank you, Erica. Both organizations, as well as all of our other customers, are really finding new ways to do things that have been traditionally really hard to do. And further, going out on a limb here, people really being creative and thoughtful and coming up with new ways to do things they could never do before. And so what I like to do is encourage organizations that might have had traditional libraries with librarians curating them and sharing that out with the rest of the organization to think more broadly and more creatively about how to engage more people in the material selection process, and then to be able to engage those people in codifying their knowledge, having it in, as Erica said, saving it in one place, building on what other people have done, saving it for future use. There's so many challenges that turn into use cases that people hadn't thought about before. And so coming full circle to the way that I began, if you're thinking about standardizing high performance material selection, think about those hairy problems that are so painful and take so much time, or just, you know, drain knowledge out of the process, where if you could fix 1 or 2 of those things by building a knowledge base collaboratively and reusing that knowledge, that's what you want to focus on. And we are thrilled to be working with so many organizations now of all different sizes, large and small. That's why I loved having you and Cole and Paladin in the same webinar to show you this is not a big company solution. It's not just a little company solution. The pricing is scalable, it's very affordable, and we are at the top of the hour. We have just another minute or two left. So I'm just going to throw it out there. If you're an AECO firm and you're interested in evaluating, let us know. We'd love to set up an intro call, talk to you about our structured evaluation process. It's free. You can have as many people as you like involved. We're going to support you to help identify those high value use cases and get you on your way. Building product manufacturers, those of you who are on the call, I hope this webinar helps you connect the dots between having your content available in the transparency catalog as really the master source for people wanting to standardize on high performance material selection, to be able to pull those products into projects and libraries. And coming soon, in the next couple of quarters, we're going to be able to connect those dots for you by giving you visibility into how people are interacting with your products in their projects and libraries, so that you finally get that feedback that investing in transparency really is getting your products into projects and libraries. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up on time. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day. As you leave, if you wouldn't mind just answering relevant questions in the exit survey, and you will get the recording. You can request the deck. And thank you once again, Maria, Scott, and Erica, and have a great day.